Hello mga mahal! Welcome back to my learning channel. This is One Up Tutorials where you can level up your math skills with me, Miss B. So hello! Nagbabalik na naman po ang inyong resident math teacher na tutulungan kayo para mas maintindihan nyo ang lessons nyo sa math. Yes po! So, kung nagustuhan niyo po ang mga previous videos ko, and if you like this video, pinapaalala ko lang na libre pong mag-like at libre mag-subscribe sa aking channel para naman update kayo lagi sa lahat ng mga lessons at videos na aking i-upload. And also, pakiclick nyo na rin yung bell button para naman lagi kayong number 1 na mag-review ng mga videos ni Miss. Okay? So, let's start our lesson for today. Tayo po ay i-continue lang natin yung lesson natin previously, which is graphing polynomial functions. So, katuloy lang po siya. Okay? This lesson is again still for grade 10 second quarter. Okay? Ang objective po natin for today is to understand polynomial functions and their parts or aspects, and to interpret and learn how to graph polynomial functions. Okay? In-line po yan sa ating MELCs or Most Essential Learning Competencies, which are illustrates polynomial functions and understand, describe, and interpret the graphs of polynomial functions. Okay. So, just a little bit of review. Ang gagawin po natin ay nag-a-attempt tayo na mag-graph ng isang polynomial function. So, last time, inaral natin ang 3 aspects or 3 parts of the polynomial function graph. Ano-ano yun? Number 1, we had intercepts. So, paano natin mahanap ang intercepts? We just, if we're looking for your y-intercept, we need to let x be equal to 0. If you're looking for the x-intercept, we need to look, or we need to let y be equal to 0. Okay? And then the next aspect is what we call the behavior of the graph, with regards to your x-axis. So, yung behavior ng graph with regards to x-axis, ginagamitan po natin yan ng x-intercepts. Okay? So, your x-intercepts create several areas in your Cartesian coordinate plane. Tapos po, titingnan natin kung nasaan yung graph with respect to your x-axis. Kung siya ba ay over or under ng ating x-axis. And then, of course, the third aspect is your end behavior na tinatawag. So, yan po si left-hand side at saka si right-hand side na graph. Okay? So, yung dulo ng ating graph. Kung siya ba ay both rising, kung siya ba ay both falling, kung siya ba ay falling on the left and rising on the right, or rising on the left and falling on the right. Okay? So, now, ang aaralin natin susunod na aspect ay ang multiplicity. So, what is multiplicity? It determines whether the graph crosses or is tangent to your x-axis. Okay? So, paano natin malalaman yan? Now, kung napapansin nyo po, dito sa aking graph, meron akong function na y is equal to x plus 2 squared times x plus 1 cubed times x minus 1 to the 4th times x plus 2. Now, this graph is the graph of that said function. And then, I want you to notice yung behavior ng graph sa kanyang x-intercepts. So, let's identify first yung mga x-intercepts nitong function na ito. So, meron tayong, hindi siya dapat 2y. X-intercepts. Okay? So, ano yung x-intercepts natin? Meron tayong negative 2, meron tayong negative 1, positive 1, at 2. Now, if you're going to notice, yung parts po na yan doon sa ating graph ay nandito. Here. I will highlight each part. And I would like you to notice kung ano yung nangyayari on each part. So, at negative 2, ano yung nangyayari doon sa graph? Diba, nag-touch lang siya ng konti, tapos bigla siyang bumalik or nag-turn back. Okay? At negative 1, ano po yung nangyari? From over, nag-under siya. So, tumagos po siya sa ating x-axis. And then, at positive 1, nag-touch, nag-touch siya, tapos nag-turn back. And then, at positive 2, it just went straight through our x-axis. So, ano yung sabihin nito at anong connect? So, ang connection po niyan ay yung tinatawag nating multiplicity or kung ilang beses yung root na yan na ginamit for this particular function. At yan po ay madidetermine ng ating exponent. Hindi po degree ha, exponent. Okay ba yan? So, if you notice, our factors each have an exponent. Okay? So, doon sa mga nag-turn back, yung nag-touch lang, tapos nag-turn back sila or nag-change siya ng direction, ang tawag po dyan ay tangent. Okay? And kailan lang siya nangyayari? If you notice, nangyari siya doon sa ang exponent ay 2 at ang exponent ay 4. So, tangent, you have to equate that with even degree. Okay? And then, if you notice, yung mga nag-cross naman po, or yung tumagos sa ating x-axis, yan naman po ay odd ang kanyang exponent. So, ang tawag naman po natin dyan ay cross. And you equate that with an odd degree. Okay? Now, to summarize what I just discussed, multiplicity of roots, even multiplicities cause the graph to turn back or to change direction. So, yan yung tinatawag nating tangent to the graph. And then odd multiplicities or odd exponents cause the graph to cross the x-axis. Okay? So, yan po ang multiplicities. Even, tangent, odd, cross. Okay? Now, the fifth aspect is what we call the turning point or kung ilang beses nagbago ng direksyon ang ating graph. So, wala po tayong way para malaman exactly kung gano'ng karaming beses siya nag-change ng direction, but we can know the maximum number of turning points. So, how do we do that? We will look into the degree of our polynomial. So, si degree ulit. Okay? So, kapag nalaman natin ang degree ng ating polynomial, we will just subtract 1 from that degree at yan na po ang ating maximum turning points. Okay? So, halimbawa, meron akong y is equal to x to the 4th plus 3x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x minus 7. Okay, mahaba-haba. I-check natin yung degree. It is degree 4. So, minus 1. You can be sure that this graph will have a maximum of 3 turning points. Or 3 beses maximum na magbabago yung direksyon. Now, hindi po sinasabi nito na 3 lagi. Okay? Maximum po siya. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng 2, pwedeng 1 lang. Pero, ang maximum number is 3. So, hindi siya dapat lalampas ng 3. Okay? Alright. So, now, alam na natin ang 5 aspeto ng polynomial functions. Now, let's try to graph it. Okay? We will have a given function here, y is equal to x plus 2 squared times x minus 3 times x minus 1. So, naka-factored out form po siya para madali lang mahanap ang intercepts and everything else. Okay? So, the first thing that you need to check is the degree of your polynomial. What does that tell you? So, for this one, dahil factored out form po siya, ang gagawin lang po natin ay i-add lang natin ang exponent ng bawat isang factor. Excuse me, para malaman natin yung degree ng ating polynomial. So, we have exponent 2, exponent 1, at saka exponent 1. Kahit invisible sila, nandyan sila. So, 2 plus 1 plus 1. So, we have a polynomial of degree 4. So, ano naman ang mapupulot natin dyan sa degree 4? Unang-una, this is an even degree. Okay? And then, now let's check your leading coefficient. Paano natin malalaman yung leading coefficient? Naka-factored out form po siya. Now, you can only check the x's. So, i-check mo yung x. Meron kang positive 1 dito. May positive 1 ka din dito. At may positive 1 ka dyan. So, yung mga coefficient lang ng x ang iyong titingnan. So, since tatlong positive 1 yan, pag pinag-multiply, positive pa rin siya. Diba? So, meron tayong even degree with a positive leading coefficient. So, according sa ating first lesson, ano ang ibig sabihin yan? Ito po ay yung end behavior ng ating graph. it means that they are both rising. Okay? So, rising sa left, rising din siya sa right. So, meron na tayong nakuhang, may vague picture na tayo ng ating graph. Okay? So, magkabilang dulo, pareho siyang rising. And then, number 2 is, ano pang mapupulot natin dyan? So, yung kakaaral lang natin na turning points. So, ang gagawin natin, 4 minus 1, we know that there is a maximum of 3 turning points. Okay? Alright. So, 3 beses at the most, magbabago ng direksyon ng ating graph. The next step is going to be to find your intercepts. So, kung saan magta-touch ang ating graph sa x-axis at saka sa y-axis. So, we're going to look for the y-intercept first. In order for us to find the y-intercept, ayaw niyo magsulat. Ayan. In order for us to find the y-intercept, we let x be equal to 0. And if that happens, ano pong mangyayari? Y is equal to 0 plus 2 squared times 0 minus 3 times 0 minus 1. If we apply all of these operations, we will get y is equal to 12. Okay? And then, for our x-intercepts po, ang gagawin lang natin, we will let each of these factors be equal to 0. So, para po masya-shortcut na natin, dahil alam nyo na, panigurado kung paano kuhanin yan, meron po tayong negative 2, positive 1, at saka positive 3. So, yan po ang ating mga x-intercepts. Okay? So, after looking for the intercepts, we will go to step 3, which is create a table of signs for the behavior of the graph with respect to the x-axis. So, siya ba ay over the x-axis on that particular area or under? So, paano natin malalaman yan? Kailangan po natin ng ating mga x-intercepts. Diba, kanina nahanap natin or na-discover natin ng x-intercepts ay negative 2, 1, at 3. So, if we are going to plot that in our number line, okay? Kunwari, pantay-pantay na lang, ha? So, we will have negative 2, 1, and 3. So, yung x-intercepts po na yan ay nagsaserve sila as barriers. Okay? Now, it splits your Cartesian coordinate plane into 4 specific areas. We have those that are less than negative 2. We have the one in between negative 2 and 1. We have the one in between 1 and 3. And then lastly, we have everything that is greater than 3. So, yan din pong area na yan ang gagamitin natin for our table of signs. So, we're going to do this. Ibilisan ko na lang po ha, kasi last lesson na nagawa na natin to. Okay? So, we will have everything that is less than negative 2, everything between negative 2 and 1, everything between 1 and 3, and then everything that's bigger than 3. On our first column, ilalagay natin dyan ang ating factors. Huwag pong kakalimutan yung square, kasama yan. X minus 1, x minus 3, and then of course, our p sub x. Okay? So, we will determine now yung signs ng ating bawat isang area for each factor. So, dun muna tayo sa first factor. Yan po actually, positive siya sa lahat. Without even solving. Paano ko nalaman na positive yan lahat? Kasi po siya ay naka-square. If you have an even exponent, please remember that your answer will always be a positive answer. Okay? Kahit negative yan or positive, it will always be positive. So, plus siya lahat. Okay? So, doon na tayo sa next factor, si x minus 1. So, si x minus 1 will be negative dito, pero positive na siya for the rest. And then, si x minus 3 naman ay magne-negative sa una, magne-negative sa pangalawa, magne-negative sa pangatlo, pero positive na siya sa pang-apat. Okay, so let's now multiply each column para malaman na natin yung ating behavior. So, this one will be positive, positive, negative, positive. Now, how do we interpret this? From x, dun sa area that is less than negative 2 hanggang doon sa 1, okay, it will be over our x-axis kasi plus. Pagdating sa area between 1 and 3, the graph will be under. So, magdidip siya sa ilalim ng ating x-axis. And then, pagdating sa 4th area, babalik siya sa taas. Okay? So, yan po. So, medyo may vague idea na tayo ng shape ng ating graph. So, isang aspeto na lang at yan po yung tinatawag natin na multiplicity. So, we are going to check the multiplicity for each what do you call this? Each intercept para malaman natin kung tangent or mag-cross dun sa area na yun. So, we have at x is equal to negative 2, at x is equal to 1, and at x is equal to 3. So, kung mapapansin po natin, ang may even exponent lang dyan ay si negative 2. So, that means magta-tangent siya sa negative 2. Tapos, at positive 1 and at positive 3, it will cross the x-axis. So now, meron na tayong idea kung ano na itsura ng ating graph. So let's try and graph. Okay? Kuha muna tayo ng ating mahiwagang Cartesian plane. Medyo suskew ko siya dito dahil negative 2, 1, 3. Tapos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, andun sa pinakatuktok si 12. Okay? And then, x-intercepts. Alright. So, now, unang-una talaga natin ginagraph yung intercepts. Susunod, ano ang sabi tungkol sa ating end behavior? They should be both rising. So, iangat natin sila pareho. Okay? Tapos, sinabi natin sa multiplicity at 2, magta-tangent daw siya. So, that means magbabago siya ng direction. Paakyat yan. Okay? So, alam mo na somewhere tatama siya dito. Okay? So, pwede natin siyang gawing turning point kasi hindi naman natin alam. So, pwede natin siyang gawing turning point. Tapos, i-connect natin siya dito sa baba. Now, ano yung sabi doon sa behavior of the graph with respect to the x-axis? Doon sa area between 1 and 3, it goes under the x-axis. So, yun ang gagawin natin. Under the x-axis. And then, kunwari, nakapantay siya. Tapos, dire-diretso na. So, now, this is what you call a rough sketch of your polynomial. So, yan na po yan. Rough sketch. It's very rough. Pero okay lang yan. Hindi naman kayo ini-expect na makapag-graph kayo ng eksaktong impunto. Kasi may app po tayo para dyan. So, you have Desmos or GeoGebra. Now, if you use that, ang itsura po ng ating graph, ang totoong itsura ng ating graph, ay nandito. Okay? So, kung makikita nyo, generally, tama naman yung shape natin. Hindi lang natin na-anticipate yung pag-dip ng graph na sobrang baba doon sa between 1 and 3. Pero essentially, tama yung shape natin. Mukha siyang skewed na W. Okay? So, yan lamang po ang lesson natin for graphing polynomial functions. Medyo magsiskip na tayo dun sa last lesson natin concerning polynomial functions, and that is solving problems, involving polynomial functions. So, word problems na po tayo. Now, ang ating word problems, meron po akong dalawang problem na ipapakita dito. They're actually super similar dun sa word problems involving polynomial equations. Okay? So, very, very, very similar sila. At ang gagawin lang po natin dito ay same process with that. Okay? So, the first problem is the polynomial function p sub r is equal to 3r squared minus 3r plus 1 gives the total number of hexagons in a honeycomb, with r being the ring of the honeycomb. So, ano bang itsura niyang honeycomb na yan? Bakit may mga ring-ring? Okay. So, kapag nag-drawing po kasi tayo, di ba, nasa pinakagitna ng honeycomb is a hexagon, a single hexagon. And then, paano bang nabubuo ang honeycomb? Diba? Nagkakaroon siya ng other hexagons. Oops. Like this. I'm so sorry. Medyo hindi magaling mag-drawing si ma'am. Okay? So, itong nasa gitna, yan yung ring 1. And then, yung nakapaligid sa kanya, yan yung ring 2. And then, it will build up and build up hanggang sa lumaki na siya. So, ang hinahanap natin dito sa problem na ito ay find the total number of hexagons in ring 4. So, all we have to do here is substitute 4 as your r into our function. So, yun lamang po. Napakadali lang. Diba? So, piece of r is going to be piece of 4. And then, we're going to substitute. So, 4 squared minus 3 times 4 plus 1. At ang makukuha po natin dyan ay 37. So, there are 37 hexagons in total pagdating sa 4th ring. Okay? Diba madali lang? Yung problema. Medyo magkakaproblema lang tayo sa mga ganitong klaseng problem. Joke lang. Madali lang yan. So, you have a rectangular piece of paper whose dimensions are 20 inches by 16 inches. You are asked to then cut a square from the 4 corners of the paper so that you can fold it into an open box with a volume of 300 cubic inches. So, para ma-visualize natin, i-attempt kong i-draw. Okay? So, meron ka raw rectangular piece of paper, 20 inches by 16 inches. And then what? You have, you're going to cut squares dun sa 4 corners. So, square, 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 square. Bakit? Ano bang mangyayari kapag nag-cut tayo ng squares? Okay? So, magmumukha siyang ganito. Okay? Pag nagmukha siyang ganyan, ang gagawin natin ay i-fold natin yung mga flaps na yan para bumuo tayo ng isang, gagawin natin yung kulay, open box. Okay? So, ano ngayon ang magiging dimensions ng open box na yan? So, originally, you have 20 inches. If yung length daw, if x represents the length of the cuts, if yung length ng mga pinagpuputol natin kanina ay x. Okay? Ano na ang magiging bagong dimensions? So, si 20, isang buo siyang ganyan. Diba? Tapos, babawasan natin siya ng x sa magkabilang dulo. So, it's going to be 20 minus 2x. Okay? Now, same with si 16. Si 16, binawasan natin siya ng x sa magkabilang dulo. So, 16 minus 2x. And then, of course, yung ating kapal ay magiging x or yung kinat natin. Okay? So, yan na po ang bagong dimensions. May dimensions na tayo nung ating open box. So, after looking for that, let's look at the rest of the questions. What polynomial function would you use to find the volume of the open box? So, paano po bang mahahanap ang volume nito? Okay? Ano ba ang volume ng isang rectangular prism? Ang volume po ay imumultiply lang natin ang length times width times height. Tama? So, ang volume na yan ay x times 20 minus 2x times 16 minus 2x. And, actually, we know the amount of this volume. Yan daw ay 300 cubic inches. So, now, we can solve for x. At yun naman talaga ang hinahanap kasi if you're going to look at the next question, what is x? Okay? So, let's solve. Ano na ang mangyayari dito? We will have pwede tayong factor out ng 2. Kasi if you notice, may 2 tayo tsaka 20, tapos 2 at tsaka 16. So, magfa-factor out po tayo. Kapag ginawa ko yan, magkakaroon ako ng 2 times 2 times x sa labas. Kasi nag-factor out ako ng 2 each. So, si 20x ay magiging 10 minus x na lang. At si 16 minus 2x ay magiging 8 minus x na lang. Equals 300. So, dahil ayoko ng malalaking numbers, paliliitin natin yan. So, I'm going to divide everything by 2 times 2 or 4 para mawala siya. I will have 75 equals x times 10 minus x times 8 minus x. Okay? And then what? Anong mangyayari? We will multiply. So, 7x is equal to x times, meron tayong 80 minus 18x plus x squared. Tapos, dadagdagan lang natin ng x yan bawat isa. Oh, sorry, hindi siya 7x. 75. So, 75 equals 80x minus 18x squared plus x cubed. And then, rearranging, it will give us, medyo hatiin ko lang ha, x cubed minus 18x squared plus 80x minus 75. So, yan na po ang ating equals 0. Yan na po ang ating equation. Okay? So, of course, we're going to try and solve this by finding some possible roots, dividing through synthetic division. So, let's try to solve that dahil 75 yung ating constant. So, mag-iisip tayo ng mga pwede nating i-divide sa 75. So, through intelligent guessing, meron tayong few possible. I can try to divide it by 3 and I can try to divide it by 5. Pero para hindi na mapahaba ang ating usapan, isimulan ko na po sa 5. So, we're going to test if 5 is a root. So, 1, negative 18, 80, 75. Negative 7. Okay? So, synthetic division po tayo. 5, negative 13, negative 65. This will be 15, 75, 0. So, we have proven that 5 is indeed a root. Looking at our depressed equation, pwede pa ba siyang i-factor? Hindi na. So, pwede na natin siyang i-ignore. Pero bakit? Kasi, ang hinahanap po natin dito ay rational number because this is a word problem. May measurement po, okay? So, hindi po tayo pwedeng magkaroon ng irrational answer. Kaya yung rational answer lang po yung kukuhanin natin, which is C5. Okay? So, now, if we know that x is equal to 5, then ano pong mangyayari sa ating mga dimensions? So, we will have x. Balikan natin yung dimensions natin, ha? Ito sila. So, ano mangyayari sa mga dimensions natin? We will have 5 inches, unit, 10 inches, and 6 inches. So, yan po ang dimensions ng ating box. Okay? Na, yan naman po ang sagot dun sa last question natin. So, babalikan natin yung last question. What are the length and width of the open box? So, yan lamang po. Hindi na pala niya tinanong yung height. So, yung 10 lang at saka yung 6 inches. Okay? So, kung kayo nagdududa pa, ma'am, paano natin malalaman kung tama? Well, if you multiply 5 times 10 times 6, you will get 300. Tama? And 300 daw yung volume ng ating box. So, you can be assured na tama ang sagot. Okay? So, yun lamang po ang ating lesson for this week. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm so sorry. Alex is being cute. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please like this video. Comment down below if you have questions, if you have clarifications, comments, suggestions, violent reactions, emotional breakdowns. Pakilagay yan lahat sa comment section down below. Okay? I'll see you guys next week. Paalam!